My GF beat the heck out of an intruder. The other night I was sleeping over at my GF's. She lives one street over from the middle of nowhere. No street lights, no sidewalks, and keeps her house dark at night except for the room she's in to attract bats and detract bugs. I think it was like 2 a.m. when I woke up to my GF telling me to call 911. Long story short, a guy had broken a window into the garage and was going through my car. He had a knife, but my GF has a shotgun, unloaded, and wanted to scare him off with it. Cops really gave us a verbal shakedown for that, by the way. We're idiots and don't ever confront a burglar. But this guy was clearly unhinged and charged us. I don't really remember how it happened, but my GF somehow tripped him, or maybe he tripped on his own, and then started basically tamping this guy's rib cage down into his lungs with the stock. I had to physically stop her. A little bit about my GF. She cries when she sees sick or hurt animals. She's constantly doing or offering to do nice things for people. She won't even squish bugs. She catches them and releases them if she finds any. She's a Buddhist. Non-violence is important to her. Before this, I described her as the gentlest person I knew. So what the frick? After I stopped her, she was so calm. She sat cross-legged on the floor and then made a call to a lawyer before the cops even got there. No charges for girlfriend yet. Lawyer has been helpful, cops less so. They wanted to arrest me when they got there for some reason, and my GF had to actually ask for an ambulance for the guy because they tried to just load him into the police car and he was screaming and moaning. He lived but is still in the hospital. It's been 2 days since this happened and I still feel like my heart is racing. Every time I see my GF, I see her covered in blood with a shotgun. It hasn't changed how I feel about her, but goddamn, it's changed how I see her. Edit. Clarifying a few things, I didn't think this would get any attention. First, GF is doing good all things considered. Someone was worried that the blood was hers. The guy came in pre-wounded because there were bloody handprints on my car. He was definitely on something. My GF is currently taking a bunch of drugs since she was exposed to his blood too. GF hasn't talked much about what happened and I'm not going to push her right now. I am worried about her. I am taking care of her. I've been staying with her since this happened and feeding her. Someone said to bake a cake. I am a professional chef, also apparently an idiot. After this I'm going to the store. A lot of people seem to think my view of her has changed for the worse. That is deeply untrue. Rereading my post I realize I made it sound that way, so that's my fault. It's still pretty fresh in my mind and I'm processing things on the go. I was just having difficulty reconciling this new view of her with who I thought she was before. But I realize now that SHE hasn't changed. I just learned more about her, and what I learned is that she's a certified bad to quote many of you in the comments. Also, a lot of people are calling me out for not helping more. Don't get me wrong, I feel guilty that I didn't do much other than call 911 in the moment. I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses for myself because I was still absolutely scared, but my GF didn't really give me a chance to help. This all happened very quickly. By the time she woke me up, she was armed and out of bed. I'm deaf in one ear and a heavy sleeper anyway, so I'm glad she woke me up at all. I'm not sure why the shotgun wasn't loaded. She only told me afterwards. I was expecting her to shoot him, not beat him half to live. Edit. The cops, I won't get into it, but my GF has had issues with the local cops before. She lives in a town that barely qualifies for its own police department, and the one they do have has nothing to do 99% of the time. They seemed like they were in a rush to get finished with us the whole time they were there. I think they were probably pissed off when they got called out on 4th of July for something that actually requires paperwork. Thank you everyone in the comments. I've read every single one of them so far. There's a lot of good advice there, and a good amount of deserved criticism that I am open to. How else do you improve? Update. 8 months later. I don't know if anyone remembers me, but a while ago my girlfriend and I had a home invasion incident that culminated in her beating the life out of the intruder. I'm tired of saying my GF, so I'm gonna call her Diana. Turns out the guy was a drug addict from the next town over. He was in his 60s and he had an extensive history in jail and mental hospitals. Unfortunately, about 2 months after my post, he passed away. We didn't know anything about why until we got a chance to talk to his sister, who insisted she didn't blame Diana and that the doctors even said that he probably didn't have much longer anyway. Diana was visibly distressed during this conversation, so I'm not sure whether or not the sister just said that to comfort her. After that, Diana went on a trip to a national park during a week she knew I couldn't take off and forgot her meds. She has seizures that look like mild psychosis/magical thinking and ended up refusing to come home at the end of the trip. She kept saying that she felt like she couldn't leave the woods because she was certain there was something she needed to learn there that she hadn't yet. And when I asked her how long that might take, she said, "Some people take a lifetime." I asked if she was breaking up with me, and she said something about feeling like she was too attached to me, her house, her pets, etc., and that she needed to meditate on that for a while. I ended up going to her temple to see if anyone was willing to give me some perspective on the situation since she was seeing things through a Buddhist lens. It was the right choice. A monk actually drove the 6 hours out to her with me to talk to her in person since she wasn't picking up calls. I am so unbelievably grateful for that monk because Diana started taking her meds again and came home soon after. I've never been religious, but I started to read the Pali Canon afterwards, and that shit slaps. Diana was already volunteering her time at the temple, so now we both go together when we can. All things considered, since then, things are back to normal and going well. We're both children of divorce, so even before all this we were doing prophylactic couples counseling every few months. And for a while after we were going once a week, Diana has started seeing a therapist on her own as well, which I am so proud of her for since she's always hated the idea of individual therapy. We also stepped up our home security game. Diana already had plenty of cameras, but now we have door/window alarms and motion sensors. I also convinced Diana to get another dog, so now we have a 75-pound puppy. I know a lot of people were rooting for us to get married, but that's not going to happen. Legal marriage isn't something that interests us, and it never has. But we did buy each other rings, and it's been a great comfort to have something physical to remind me of her on my person all the time. We're also considering having a small commitment ceremony next fall. Thanks again for all the feedback on my previous post. I got a lot of great advice and some good criticism. I showed it to Diana and she got a kick out of the comments, and we had a little mutual cry over how kind a lot of you guys were. I asked her if she was okay with me posting this update, and she clucked at me and told me to do whatever I want online as long as I'm being nice and anonymous, lol. So, hope this qualifies.